Chapter 4. The Witch's Little Sister. The prince sat alone in his study, sipping a drink by the fireplace. Images of Circe haunted him. They flashed between the bewitching, young, beautiful woman he wanted to marry and the sickening scene he'd witnessed earlier that day. He almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But he could not soften to her, not after she had tried to trap him into marriage by weaving such horrid lies. As he sat there, sinister shadows danced on the walls. These were created by the firelight and the giant antlers mounted on the wall above his chair. He remembered the day he'd killed the largest trophy, a great elk. He had almost been sad the day he finally took him down. He'd been tracking the beast for years, but when he'd killed him, he felt as if he'd lost an old friend. He sipped some more, remembering that hollow day. Just then, the porter poked his head into the room. "Prince, sir, Miss Circe is here to see you." The prince sighed with annoyance. "I've told you numerous times now not to admit her. Send her away." And he turned back to his musings. The porter didn't leave. He stuttered his reply. "I haven't let her in, my lord. She is standing outside, but refuses to go. She says she will not leave until you speak with her." "Very well, then." Putting his drink on the little wooden side table next to his chair, he stood with a heavy sigh and made his way toward the grand entrance. There stood Circe, a pathetic little creature holding a single red rose, looking downright diminutive in the gaping arched doorway. Her eyes were sad, swollen, and red from crying. She looked nothing like the ravishing beauty that had once stood in his rose garden, all golden, silver, and light. If seeing her mucking around in the mud that day hadn't vanquished that memory from his mind, then this encounter most surely would. He'd never again be tempted by memories of her beauty, trying to fool him into feeling sorry for the lying little creature. She had a ratty shawl around her shoulders that made her look like an old beggar woman. The light and shadow on her face made her look old and haggard. Had he not known it was her, he would have thought her an old beggar woman indeed. She spoke with a small voice. She sounded like a little crow, her voice scratchy and hoarse from long crying. "My love, please, I can't believe you would treat me so poorly. Surely you didn't mean the things you said to me earlier today." She broke down sobbing, her tear-stained and swollen face buried in her small white hands. How could he ever have thought her adorable? "I cannot marry you, Circe. You must have known that from the start. I'm guessing that is why you tried to keep your parents a secret." "But I didn't know, my love. My darling, please take this rose and remember the days you still loved me. Won't you please let me come inside, away from this cold? Don't you hate me so much? Do you hate me so much? Your beauty, which so captured my heart in my very garden, will forever be tarnished by the grotesque scene I witnessed today, and by this shameful display." When Circe's shawl fell back, the prince was startled to see her eyes were no longer swollen, and her face was not splotched and red from long hours of crying. Her skin was pale and glowing as if she were infused with moonlight, and her hair was bright and shimmering with little silver adornments, like sparkling bits of stardust were captured within her. Her dress was opalescent silver, and everything about her seemed to glow with enchantment, but nothing shined brighter than her pale blue eyes. She had never looked so beautiful. "I'll never be quite as beautiful again in your eyes, because you think I'm the daughter of a pig farmer?" Then he heard their voices, climbing out of the darkness like a chorus of harpies swooping up from hell. "Farmer's daughter? Our little sister? Why, she is of royal blood. She is cousin of the old king." He couldn't see who was speaking. He only heard 3 distinct voices coming from the darkness. Something about the voices unnerved him. No, if he were completely honest with himself, he would admit the voices frightened him. He wanted nothing more than to slam the door and hide within the walls of his castle. But he stood his ground. "Is this true, Circe?" he asked. "Yes, my prince, it is. My sisters and I come from a long line of royalty. I don't understand." Circe's sisters stepped into the light and stood behind her. Their grotesquerie made Circe's beauty even more pronounced. It was startling, really. It wasn't that they were ugly, the sisters. It was just that everything about them was so striking, and in such contrast to their other features. Each feature on its own could have been beautiful. Their large eyes, for example, might have looked stunning on another woman. Their hair, somehow, it was too black, like one could become lost in the depth of the darkness. And the contrast of their blood-red lips against their parchment white skin was just too shocking. They didn't seem real, these sisters. None of this did, because all of it was absurd. He felt as if he must be dreaming, caught in a nightmare. He was entranced by Circe's transfiguration, and it made him forget his earlier vow never again to think of her. He was enamored with her beauty once more. "Circe, this is wonderful. All is well. You're of royal descent. We can be married." "We had to be sure you really loved her," said Lucinda, her eyes narrowing. "Yes, sure," said Martha. "We wouldn't just let our little sister marry a monster," they shouted, accusingly in unison. "Monster? How dare you?" the princess snapped. The sisters laughed. "That is what we see, a monster. Oh, others may find you handsome enough, but you have a cruel heart, and that is what we see, the ugliness of your soul. Soon all will see you for the cruel beast you are." "Sisters, please, let me speak. He is mine, after all," said Circe, trying to calm her sisters. "It is my right to deliver the retribution." "There is no need for this," the prince said, finally showing his fear, whether it be of the sisters or of losing the beautiful vision before him. "We can be married now. I've never seen a woman as beautiful as you. There's nothing to stand in our way. I must have you as my wife." "Your wife? Never. I see now you only loved my beauty. I will ensure no woman will ever want you, no matter how you try to charm her. Not as long as you remain as you are, tainted by vain cruelty." The sisters' laugh could be heard clear across the land on that night. It was so piercing, it sent hundreds of birds into flight, and frightened the entire population of the kingdom, even Gaston. But Circe continued with her curse, while Gaston and the others wondered what ominous happenings might be afoot. "Your ugly deeds will mar that handsome face of yours, and soon, as my sister said, everyone will see you as the beast you are." She then handed the prince the single red rose she had tried to give him earlier. "And since you would not take this token of love from the woman you profess to cherish, let it then be a symbol of your doom." "Your doom," Martha said, laughing while she clapped her little white hands and hopped in her tiny boots with absolute glee. "Your doom," joined Ruby and Lucinda, also jumping up and down, making the scene even more confusing and macabre. "Sisters," Circe pleaded, "I am not finished." She continued, "As the rose petals fall, so shall the years pass until your 21st birthday. If you have not found love, true love, both given and received, by that day and sealed with a kiss, then you shall remain the horrifying creature you'll become." The prince squinted his eyes and cocked his head, trying to comprehend the meaning of this riddle. "Oh, he'll become the beast, he will. No doubt. He'll never change his wicked ways." The sisters were again clapping and jumping in vindictive delight. Their laughter seemed to feed upon itself. The more they laughed, the louder it became, and the more insane the sisters seemed to be. Circe had to take them in hand once again. Sisters, stop! He has to know the terms of the curse, or it will not be binding. The sisters' laughter ceased at once, and they became unnervingly quiet, twitching with discomfort. Mustn't ruin his punishment. No, mustn't do that. Circe, hearing her sisters chatter again, gave them a reproachful look, silencing them immediately. Thank you, sisters. Now, Prince, do you understand the terms of the curse? The prince could only look at the woman in wonder and horror. He's struck dumb, little sister, cackled Lucinda. Shh, reminded Ruby as Circe continued. Do you understand the terms? She asked him again. That I'm supposed to turn into some sort of beast if I do not change my ways? The prince said, trying to repress a smile. Circe nodded. Now it was time for the prince to laugh. Poppycock, what sort of trickery is this? I'm to believe you've cursed me? Am I supposed to become so frightened that I fool myself into making something dreadful happen? I won't fall for it, ladies, if indeed you can be called ladies, royal blood or not. Circe's face hardened. The prince had never seen her like this, so angry, so stern and cold. Your castle and grounds shall also be cursed. Then, and everyone within will be forced to share your burden. Nothing but horrors will surround you, from when you look into a mirror to when you sit in your beloved rose garden. Lucinda added, and soon those horrors will be your only scenery. Yes, I see you stuck cowering within doors. Yes, fearful of leaving your own bedchamber. Yes, too frightened to show your ugly face to the world outside your castle walls. I see your servants seething with hate, watching your every move from distant shadows, sneaking up on you in the night, just looking at the creature you've become. And I see you, Lucinda said, wondering if they'll kill you to free themselves from the curse. Enough! That is but one path he may take. There is one last thing he needs before we go. Circe looked to Ruby. The mirror, please, Ruby. Lucinda's face contorted, even more freakishly than imaginable. Circe, no, not the mirror. It's our mirror, not yours to give away. No. This is my curse, sisters, and on my terms, I say he gets the mirror. My darling, Circe continued, this enchanted mirror will let you see into the outside world. All you need to do is ask the mirror, and it will show you what you want to see. I don't like you giving away our treasure, Circe. That was a gift from a very famous maker of mirrors. It's quite priceless and very old. It's a mirror of legends. It was given to us before you were even born. And shall I remind you how you came to possess it? Asked Circe, silencing her sisters. Let's not bore the prince with our family history, Circe, said Martha. He can have the mirror, not only to see the outside world, but to see the hideous creature he's bound to become. Oh, yes, let him try to break the maidens' hearts after he's turned into the beast, screamed Ruby, with Lucinda and Martha chiming in. Let him try to break their hearts and make them cry. They were spinning in circles like toy tops, their dresses blossoming about them like mutant flowers in a strange garden, while they chanted their incessant mockery. Let him try to break their hearts and make them cry. Circe was growing impatient, and the prince looked as if he was straddling amusement and fear. Sisters, please stop, I beg you, Circe snapped. I'm supposed to take this seriously? Any of this? Really, Circe, do you think I'm an idiot like your cackling sisters here? Before the prince could say any more, he found himself pressed firmly against the stone wall behind him, Circe's hand placed tightly around his throat, her voice a hiss like a giant serpent's. Never speak ill of my sisters again. And yes, You'd better take everything I've said seriously, and I suggest you commit it to memory, because your life depends on it. The curse is in your hands now. Choose the right path, Prince. Change your ways, and you shall be redeemed. Choose cruelty and vanity, and you will suffer indeed. She released him. He was utterly gobsmacked. Her face was very close to his and full of hate. He felt frightened, really frightened, perhaps for the first time in his young life. "Do you understand?" she asked again. Vehemently as he could mutter was, "Yes." "Come, sisters, let's leave him then. He will choose his own path from here." And so he did.